Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's the meme of the day, brought to you by 5mind.com. You know, in a lot of ways, I really do find the left-wing mind fascinating. I think a lot of it surrounds a simple concept. You've heard it a million times before. The term is cognitive dissonance. That's the mental discomfort experienced when holding two conflicting beliefs, values, or behaviors simultaneously. And this concept, I think, kind of widely applies to left-wing thinking in general. And what's inspired this video is actually this old resurfaced Anna Kasparian clip from the Patrick Bet-David podcast. That's the Valuetainment podcast.
We spent $13 billion in Los Angeles alone last year to combat homelessness. You want to know where that money went? That money went to these trash nonprofits who have a bunch of executives making $500,000 a year. You're working for a nonprofit dealing with homelessness. That's my money. That's my parents' money. Okay? That is the hard-working people of California paying incredibly high taxes that go to what? So yeah, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. And honestly, just experiencing what I've seen on the ground in California has made me question a lot about left-wing ideology.
Yeah, that popped up on my timeline, and I instantly felt inspired. You know, it's this idea of an abusive relationship, this cognitive dissonance that kind of defines the left, where they can see very clearly that what's going on is not working. Democrat policies do not work. Socialism, communism, collectivist thinking in general, central planning fails time and time again, and yet they keep convincing themselves that, oh, this time it's gonna work. Just this blind blue anon loyalty to voting left and supporting the politicians who veer the closest to communism. You know, it really is a fascinating psychological phenomenon. You got these leftists who purport themselves to be anti-establishment, right? Down with the power structure, only to then advocate for a system that seems to consolidate power very much in the hands of the few, those who are in government. They tell you these politicians, they're all a bunch of corrupt, evil people who are all bought and paid for by the billionaire class, the corrupt oligarchy, and then they advocate for more government and more government control, again consolidating the power within the hands of these power brokers who are supposedly doing the bidding of the billionaire class. It's just really a fascinating concept, and I want to talk about it. This sort of see no evil mentality of the average left-wing voter. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. To do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. It's the definition of insanity, right? And that, of course, then begs the question, are left-wingers completely, patently, descriptively, definitionally insane? That's what I'm wondering. And you know, I just have a hard time wrapping my head around it all. How someone like Anna Kasparian, for instance, can live in California for as long as she has, be a devoted left-wing activist, and just slowly look around her and see nothing but collapse, economic and social decay, and then even get so close to, you know, having that epiphany moment, but then immediately reverting back to being a left-wing shill, especially considering what's going on right now in California. We saw a massive expose of hospice fraud and other healthcare service frauds that was mostly uncovered by Dr. Oz and Nick Shirley, at least publicly. And so that was basically presented to these left-wing politicians, in this case, Governor Gavin Newsom. And what was Gavin Newsom's response? Well, I think it was put pretty clear here by Nick Shirley. Governor Gavin Newsom writes, California is again leading the charge against large-scale identity theft and hospice fraud. They were taking decisive action against 14 providers who tried using stolen identities to bill Medi-Cal for non-existent hospice services. Nick Shirley then responds, you tried to paint me as a pervert for exposing fraud, and as a result, radical leftists started trying to dox me and send death threats wanting to kill me. Now you are taking credit for, quote, leading the charge on fraud. Are you serious? You are the fraud. And again, you know, it's just a full-on display of cowardice, corruption, turning a blind eye to the total mismanagement and theft of taxpayer dollars. In other words, leftism. And yet, if you look at every single poll, if you look at all the prediction markets, Governor Gavin Newsom is the leading Democrat candidate going into the presidential election in 2028. You know, I just can't wrap my head around it. It's a level of cognitive dissonance that's just fascinating, to be standing on your moral high horse all the time. We vote based on the data and the science, and to have the data staring you in the face. What do you get when you vote for Gavin Newsom? You get high-speed rail to nowhere, to the tune of billions upon billions of dollars spent. You get large-scale, widespread, systemic NGO fraud. You get ridiculous political pandering that seems to supersede common sense economic economic policy. The latest cultural grift is, of course, ooh, my rich peoples. Blame all of your problems on rich people. Then move forward with punitive tax measures targeting said rich people, causing them to flee. Your tax base then gets eroded. Not to mention your economy starts to shrink. So in essence, you're doing the exact opposite of what you initially intended, which was collect more taxes to fund all of these fancy services. You know, it's just an absolute disaster. It's a full-blown display of failed governance and management, and yet Gavin Newsom is the heir apparent. It's just unbelievable. And apparently the evil guy, oh, it's Donald Trump. You know, what conclusion can you come to other than left-wing voters are simply overly emotional, easily manipulated peoples? You know, here's a perfect example of that kind of manipulation. You've got the Governor Newsom press office that tweets, Donald Trump is raising your electricity bill, then showing the average electricity bill rising 7% over the last 13 months. And there's multiple factors for this. One of them is the massive amount of data centers that are being put up everywhere, but also you got the conflict in Iran. You know, I'm not going to shy away from it, although most of the electricity cost gains were actually before the Iran conflict even started. But again, you know, you got these Democrats running campaigns based on affordability. But then you look at this. Who the hell does this guy think he is? Look at the average cost of electricity in California compared to the rest of the country. But apparently Donald Trump is the problem. And of course, we got the same thing with Democrats pointing the finger at Donald Trump, claiming that he's causing all kinds of inflation, right? Initially, his tariff policies were going to cause massive, uncontrollable inflation. Hakeem Jeffries called Liberation Day, quote, Recession Day. Well, did we ever see that hyperinflation materialize? No. Do you think we're going to see it this time with the Iran conflict? Probably not, especially not if peace talks go well. But the most important thing is you zoom out for 5 seconds. Here's a graphic that I think will put it into clear perspective. We got the inflation numbers from Trump 2016 to 2020, then 2025 to current day, with Joe Biden's numbers in between. Yeah, which party was responsible for an affordability crisis? It's pretty damn clear, right? Yet you've got politicians now, like Gavin Newsom and others, who are so clearly dishonest, so clearly full of crap on these topics, and yet the left-wing low information, blue ain't on masses just clap like frickin' seals and keep voting for these people. It's manipulation. I mean, that is what left-wing politics is all about. I think Adam Carolla nailed it on the head, albeit I've been saying the same thing for years.
What they do is they create chaos, and then at some point they go, look at all the chaos. And it's like, yeah, I know. That's because you're doing that. And then they go, don't you want the chaos to end? The phenomenon that's kind of interesting with Trump, what if I just said as an example, you know, you and your wife, and your wife said, I'd like to go to bed at night and leave the front door open. And you go, I don't want to do that because like raccoons would come into the house, a stray dog. And they go, no, that's what I want to do. And you go, no. And then you come downstairs in the morning, the trash is all torn through because a family of raccoon walked through your living room and so on and so forth. And then you say to your wife, can we just shut the front door? Can we just shut the front door? And she goes, no. And you go, I'm shutting the front door. And you shut the front door. But she's throwing a fit every single night. And then at some point, your kids just go, just open the front door. I'm so tired of hearing her. I'm so tired of the arguing. And you go, but we shut the front door and we didn't get any raccoons. I know, but I don't want to hear this anymore. Just do it. You know, and you go, fine, we'll do it. And so you go, oh, you open the front door. And now there's raccoons back in the house, but there's no more arguing. In a way, it's like being blackmailed. So you go, I don't want the front door. And I go, yeah, but don't you just want peace? Don't you just want some peace in your home? And you go, okay. And that's sort of what they do. They go out and they fight everything. They just fight everything. And then at some point they go, aren't you tired of the chaos? Don't you just want some peace? Don't you want to just get back to normal? Don't you just want to get some middle of the road, somebody, just put our guy in there, open the front door, no more arguments, and we can get on with our life. Wouldn't that be nice? And I'm like, it would be nice, but there's an alternative one, which is you shut the up. You know what I mean? Like, because that's the other alternative. I'm going to shut the front door. You shut the up and we'll get on with our lives.
And that's exactly it. It's a continuing downward spiral. It's nothing but constant manipulation and power grabs, engaging in obvious known bad policies to create either intended or unintended consequences, so then you could then run on those consequences and always have something, always have a grift, whatever the next grift is. And yet time and time again, 50% of the population shows up to vote for it. Even those who are, at the cusp of getting it, like Anna Kasparian, even they continue continue to be ideologically loyal. I don't know if it's a genuine, hopeless optimism, a naive, frankly deluded optimism, that this time it's gonna work. No, this time, our bleeding heart liberal policies will work, even though the people they're putting in charge of implementing these bleeding heart liberal policies are absolute scumbag grifters like freaking Gavin Newsom, who would have likely been replaced by another freaking sociopathic grifter, Eric Swalwell, had all his history of abuse not been revealed lately. I don't know if it's a naivete. I don't know if some of these people just kind of like the drama of it all. How much of it is just this kind of like social manipulation game where you're on the left and that makes you a good person by default. Oh, by simply declaring yourself a Democrat, all of a sudden you care, and those evil Republicans, they want to kill children, or I don't know, some nonsense. It's hard to say exactly what it is, but one thing for sure it isn't is rational. It's not rational at all. And you notice it the moment Donald Trump wins. Even when things are getting better, inflation gets lower, the border crisis comes to an end, the economy's back on track, despite, so many grifters telling you that Donald Trump has crashed and destroyed the economy. It's nonsense. They'll be looking like complete fools in 6 to 8 months, I guarantee you. But metric after metric, life is objectively better now that Trump is president compared to Joe Biden. And yet, when you listen to these people speak, Trump can do no good. Everything is bad. The moment a Republican is elected, it's like a frickin' switch. All of a sudden, the left-wing perspective is soured. I mean, literally on day one, this is shown. It's very clearly identified in the polling data. Joe Biden's last day in office, economic sentiment for Democrat voters is sky high. And then on Inauguration Day, before a single policy has even been implemented, the same economic sentiment poll shoots down to like single digits. These people are in no position to be claiming that MAGA is a cult. They're the ones who fill every single checkbox for the definition of a cult. The cognitive dissonance is off the frickin' charts. They know. They have to know. And yet they continue to just endlessly kick the can down the road to justify their failed ideology, the failed political track record of their preferred leaders. And I think the perfect example is in California with Gavin Newsom. He's actively destroyed the state of California. Now there's massive hospice and healthcare fraud popping up, and that's been a story for months, and only now is he pretending as if he cares and he's addressing it, trying to flip the script and cast himself as the hero. He's the biggest fraud in the game, and yet he's on his way to being the party leader. It really does feel sometimes like leftism is a mental disorder. It's a mind virus.
At one point, I thought being on the left was a mental problem. The empirical evidence is so overwhelming, it never worked anywhere, and they refused to accept it. Therefore, I thought it was a mental problem. Some kind of block that doesn't even let them see the numbers. They are enemies of numbers. They hate numbers. I don't know if lefties hate water or numbers more. I don't know if they hate bathing more than numbers. But what I discovered is that being on the left is a disease of the soul. The left is built on envy, hatred, resentment, unequal treatment before the law. They are very violent. And since they have no way or arguments to answer, they go for physical violence. Lefties always, resort to physical violence and all kinds of violent manifestations because they are unable to refute the arguments.
All I gotta say is I think Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, might have a valid point. Anyways, that's what I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.